So what is it going to take to get that cash flowing again? Todd, you heard Paul Bezzetta. He's counting on the Obama administration to act quickly. Just how quickly do they need to act to get the cash flowing again?
Well, there's evidence that we are in a real crisis, and that especially in the financial sector, that it's like the plumbing is all gummed up and it's not flowing. And certainly the stimulus package that they're talking about is one idea that definitely needs to happen quickly. But I think no one knows exactly when we're going to come out the other side of this. So there's going to be a long period of a lot of pain, and we need to pull together to try to get through that. Eventually, we will get past this, but and I think the new administration recognizes the severity of it, and we need to get that money into the economy quick. But it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah. In Paul Bezzetta's case, of course, he's looking for a commercial loan. There are a lot of people who've been using credit cards, basically living off credit cards. Jackie, your agency, Clearpoint Financial Solutions, kind of does what Beyond Housing does, only with people with other kinds of debt, with credit card debt, that sort of thing. Have you been seeing an uptick in calls to your agency?
Most definitely. Most definitely. We're seeing a lot more people calling in because their savings are exhausted and they're using their credit cards to live on, and now they're at a point where they have no more room on their credit cards. So they're having a lot of financial problems out there.
So when they come in for the first time, do you like to see the kind of documentation that the housing counselors like to see, your bills, your budget, if you have one?
If they have their budget and they have a good idea of where they're spending, their income is going, that's a great thing to have along with them, because we do develop a budget with them. We would like to see their pay stubs. We'd like to see their credit card bills so we can put together a total financial plan for them.
Yeah. And there are so many people using credit cards as cash, and I think there are a lot of people, if you're of a certain age, you don't know a time when there weren't credit cards, and that's kind of scary. But are there certain things that you should just under no circumstances charge?
I think that the best thing to remember with credit cards is that it is a loan. It is not cash. It's not an extension of your income. And so when you're charging something, keep that in mind, that this is a bill that you do have to repay. So if you're going out for dinner and you wouldn't normally spend that $50, don't put it on a credit card.
I know
pay cash.
Let's say we all get those credit card bills. We have those little slips sometimes, you know, saying that there's been a change in the terms of your agreement. Right. Most of us throw that stuff away. And I think maybe a lot of our viewers don't know that credit card companies can probably, I would imagine, change their terms anytime they want.
That's absolutely correct. They can. So it's very important for you to read those fine lines that the credit card companies tell you, because they could be reducing your limit, they could be increasing your interest rate, they could be increasing your minimum payment amount, which all affects your finances. So it's very important to know your credit card terms and know how to use it.
Does that often happen because, say, you're falling behind? Will you see your interest rate go up, or necessarily? Or?
You will see it go up if you're falling behind, but what you're starting to see now, too, is a lot of consumers that have good credit, that carry a balance, are also getting their limits either reduced, they're getting their interest rates raised. So we're seeing it not only with people that are having problem paying their credit cards, but also with those that are not having problems, that are seeing their terms change and seeing their interest rates go up because of the situation we're in right now.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
I want to turn now to another aspect of the financial crisis. Let's take a look at what's being done in a community to prevent foreclosed and abandoned houses from destabilizing neighborhoods. Jim Kircher went to North St. Louis County, where the power of individuals to affect change is making a difference.
In late December, we tagged along with John Throw from St. Louis County's Problem Property Unit and Jamie O'Hare, director of the volunteer organization Neighbors Assisting Neighbors. They were checking out complaints about abandoned homes in the Spanish Lake area of North County. They wanted to see how bad the problems were at the reported addresses, although they're pretty good at spotting these houses just by driving around.
This is always an indication, because the phone company delivers the phone book. Of course, nobody picks it up.
Right, right.
Now this would be a good project for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, because this is highly labor intensive, but somebody has to do it.
Yeah.
Because the people living around here, like that guy over there's got a nice house, and he's saying, what about this?
So what we'll do is get back here and break all this up, bring it to the street, and then the county comes out and picks it up.
But you can see here, somebody kicked it in. And what they do when they go in is they take the copper. And if the water's on, and they pull copper out of the second floor, It runs to the first floor and to the basement. And a copper thief will get $30 worth of copper, and he'll do $30,000 worth of damage to the property. This is where a lot of the bad mortgages were written. The original inhabitants of these houses are all gone. They're all moving out or dying. And new owners are coming in, and of course most of them are very good and very successful as owners, but too many of them aren't. When a property is foreclosed, they're usually pressed for time. So whatever they don't want, they leave. If it's not precious and very portable, often it gets left. All we got to do is get that boat out of there. Otherwise, it looks pretty good.
Another empty house had brush in the back that volunteers could clean up. But there was another problem they wanted to get to right away.
Gang graffiti is very discouraging.
It's intimidating.
It scares people. They want to get out of the neighborhood right away. So as soon as we can find it, we paint it. So we'll paint this very quickly.
Spanish Lake is an area in trouble, but not beyond hope. It could go either way. There are houses like this one, a leaky roof, flooded basement, and mold, that might be saved. The county could use neighborhood stabilization money to buy it, fix it up, and get it back on the market. But if the community pitches in, smaller problems can be tackled before they become big problems. And so a couple of weeks after the tour, on a cold January morning, Neighbors Assisting Neighbors, working with the Spanish Lake Community Association, had organized the cleanup.
We'd love for you to take one.
And met up at the historic Twillman House, which is being turned into a community center.
I've got gloves right here that I want everyone to grab, and I'm going to let...
They got the plan and they headed out, and the dumpsters were waiting for them. Usually these volunteer work crews help residents who have a cleanup or a maintenance problem that they just don't have the ability or the money to fix. But today they were helping Spanish Lake residents who wanted the house next door or down the block cleaned up. Organizers have seen this kind of community government volunteer coalition work in other neighborhoods. But it is hard work.
A continued and committed effort. It's definitely not something that you address once and it goes away. And, you know, they see a difference over time. So it's a fight that is a continual one, but it's worth it, and every time it gets a little bit easier.
If you're just joining us, you're watching a live discussion about the financial crisis in the St. Louis region. You can call right now if you'd like to speak with a counselor about mortgage, foreclosure, credit, or mental health issues at 1-800-568-9099. You can also call the United Way's 211 service at 1-800-427-4626. My next question is for you, Todd. I'm wondering what you believe the role of government and nonprofits are in terms of keeping neighborhoods stable and to continue those efforts like the ones that are happening in Spanish Lake.
I think that's a very good question, Ruth, because you can't expect neighbors by themselves to solve this problem, but you can expect them to have the local knowledge and have the ability to be flexible and to recruit volunteers. But what I would like to stress is we need government programs to assist them, to plug in the resources that they can use. You notice there was a dumpster there. Without the county providing that dumpster, it would do no good for the residents to be picking up the lot. But that's almost like a metaphor. We need funds, we need programs, we need standard approaches to these problems. What we have right now is a situation where I think often people at the grassroots are having to reinvent the wheel each time in dealing with these problems. Instead of having programs that the federal and state governments can put together that they can then link into to really bring about results at the scale that we need. It needs to go far beyond just voluntary efforts. They need to be linked to the resources of the federal and state governments and the city governments.
Yeah. The foreclosure situation isn't made any better by the fact that in the state of Missouri, as you all know, the process for getting somebody out of their house happens so quickly. And the laws vary from state to state, but you can be out of your house in a couple of months in Missouri.
Less than a couple of months from the moment your notice occurs. We hear that we are the second fastest state in the nation. Chris tells me after Texas. So we got beat by Texas on one thing there, but that's not good, because that means that people don't have the time to rescue themselves, to come up with a plan to save their home. And we should be looking in Missouri, the legislature in Missouri should be looking to do something to lengthen that process. Right now it's a non-judicial process. It perhaps could stay as a non-judicial process, but it needs some way to give people more time so that they can save their home.
Definitely. Do you see that as helping you? Because sometimes when people come in to either of your agencies to ask for help, it may already be too late.
Sure. I mean, the speed in which it can happen, because human nature is you wait before you ask for help. You try to do it on your own. You do the bootstrap thing. I want to get out of this on my own. I'm proud, and I don't want to ask anybody for help. So expanding that time frame, as Todd talked about, would be very helpful for our counselors to give us a little more time to figure out, can we work with the homeowner, can we work with the servicer, can we work with the lender to negotiate something where that homeowner can live up to their financial obligations, can repay that loan, and then stay in their neighborhood. I mean, the clip we just saw is indicative of what happens to the social fabric of a community when they lose a homeowner, someone who's been there or raised their kids, is a member of that place, and then all of a sudden they're gone, and you saw all the kinds of things that happen. And that is one isolated case that happened thousands of times here in the St. Louis region in 2008, and regrettably we're looking at the same kinds of numbers in 2009, and the psychological damage, let alone the financial damage that does to a place, is critical. So as Todd said, yes, it's volunteerism, yes, it's the private sector, but the public sector, nonprofits all have to come together to say, we have a crisis that's in front of us. It may not be on your block or in your family, but it's somewhere close to you. And unless we have the courage to roll up our sleeves and say, what can I do to play a role in making this better, we're going to continue to struggle.
Mm-hmm. Now, Todd, you followed communities around the country during this crisis. How does the St. Louis region stack up in terms of addressing these issues?
Well, I think that there are what we call sometimes the gazelles. There are regions around the United States that have had the nonprofits in place, have had relationships and ability to raise money from foundations, from local governments. And so we're not a gazelle. We're not a region that has really lit out. The thing I would say about the St. Louis region is tremendous examples, we see it around the table, of people collaborating at the grassroots level. But what's lacking to a certain extent is leadership from elected officials and from leaders of the private sector that I think need to step forward and give it a public face and commit the resources. So I think there's a lot of grassroots work going on. I think it's very commendable. But we need more action by the city, by the county, by the state to step in. And I know in Cleveland, where I did a series of interviews, the foundations have put forth millions of dollars to establish rescue funds. I don't know of any foundation in this region that's kicked forth a significant sum of money like that. So there's much more that can be done, Ruth, and there needs to be a sense of crisis. And there needs to be a sense also that this is not the fault of individuals. This is happening to lots of people at once. So when people are embarrassed or ashamed, they should recognize they're not alone. This is something that's happening in our society, not just to them individually. I realize that sometimes people were greedy. I understand that that happens. But for the most part, this is about people who are victims of deceptive lending practices. And it's going to have a ramification for the entire society. It reduces property values within 1/8 of a mile of each foreclosed property. There are reductions in property values. It's been proven. So there's a real argument to be made here for the public stepping in and doing more.
Thank you, Todd. These challenging times are prompting some of us to wonder what the proverbial American dream will look like to future generations. Patrick Murphy spent some time with local university students as they pondered that question.
Prior to the war, 2/3 of Americans were renters. After the war, 2/3 of Americans own their own homes.
The American dream, a home, a job, an education, and a bright future. It was a dream that became reality for many Americans after World War II, when the GI Bill offered the possibility of low-interest home loans and an education to returning veterans, allowing a generation of Americans a place in the middle class. But what does the American dream mean to the grandchildren of those veterans? It's a question raised in the classroom of St. Louis University communications professor Bob Krisak. First, students watched films about the American dream and what it meant to the post-war generation.
What was the American dream for the people on here? What were they saying about the American dream?
The white picket fence and, just owning your own house, and now those are kind of things that we've grown up already having, so we're dreaming of like bigger and better things.
Then the students were loaned tiny video flip cameras provided by KETC and assigned to interview their peers about what the American dream means to them today. It was a research project done with new tools for a new generation looking for ways to make their voices heard.
We're starting this new push toward digital storytelling and citizen journalism, and want them to feel that they can do these things. The media isn't just something apart from them, that they can be part of the way that we get information about the world and talk about it.
After conducting their interviews, the class brought their cameras to a Channel 9 editing suite to view what they recorded and discuss what they had discovered.
Like, our generation has been able to build upon the past generation's American dreams. Like, I guess a couple generations ago it was about surviving and making money, and then as we've gone on and our families have been able to give us more, we've kind of been able to dream a little more, I guess.
For many of these young people, it is a dream in which reality is tempered by optimism.
Materialistic things can be taken away and money can be taken away in a flash, but always having those family values is very important.
Okay, why this one? Why did you pick this one?
This guy, he's a Palestinian American, a second-generation Palestinian American.
Okay.
So I thought it was interesting to see what his view of America, the American dream was.
The American dream is not a gift. The American dream is an opportunity. And everybody's given the opportunity. It's just whether you take advantage of it or not.
So even in hard times, the dream endures. But as all dreams, ever-changing, always new.
Maybe it just has to change its definition to really fit in with what the world is like currently, because I think you can't make the country what it once was because you can't go back in time. It has to change with the rest of the world, and if it doesn't change along with the world, then it's going to get left behind.
Did you notice that price on the Levittown house? $7,999. I think we'd be lucky to get a car for that price these days. But I'm wondering about the American dream. I think you have found, Chris and you, Eric, that you can help maybe 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 people who come in the door. So for a lot of people, they're going to have to put that American dream on the back burner. In this period where people are basically overhauling their lives, is there a point at which bankruptcy is a viable option for some of these people that you're saying?
Well, as a counseling agency, we basically can't, actually steer a person to bankruptcy. It would actually have to be basically something that the homeowner would actually have to decide for themselves. So what we do is, as a counseling agency, we like to basically just lay out options for the borrower, basically. So it could be maybe a short sale, it could be a deed in lieu, or or possible bankruptcy. But the thing is that we most definitely have to just lay out the options, and then the homeowner would actually have to make that decision or whatnot. But I know also too we do try to offer some assistance as far as transitioning, and we also as an agency we like to let people know that there is life after foreclosure. So through transitioning, we may be able to offer maybe assistance for first month's rent or security deposit assistance or whatnot if funding is available in that particular area where they want to relocate. So we just like to let homeowners know that there are options and there is life after foreclosure.
Do you find that?
Yes, I mean, certainly bankruptcy is an option. We certainly try to, as Eric said, guide folks to other places other than that, but certainly that is available to folks. They have to understand the implications and what does that mean, not only today, but for further down the road. But it is a tool that is available. I think the idea of the American dream and what it means for everyone, I think as some of those students indicated, is going to evolve and is going to change. I think, the idea of American dream for lots of folks with that single-family house, and you have the mortgage, and de facto was wealth building. We don't talk about it in those kind of terms, but that's what you were, in essence, doing, building your wealth, and ideally you're passing it on to your children. So again, as this new generation comes up, they're going to think through what's important to them. Those of us who dreamed about, okay, I want to own my own home, that may not be their dream, and that's fine, but their dream is of a life that has some value and has some meaning. If a structure is a part of that, great, but it may not be for that younger generation. Our task now is we've built a lot of single-family homes, and what are we going to do with them, and who's going to live there, and are they going to own it, are they going to rent it, and how is that part of, again, the fabric of a community, the fabric of a neighborhood where folks live and raise their kids and are part of the day-to-day life.
Exactly. Thank you.